I wanted a way to tell my own story through food. The heart of what I do is actually about building connections and community by generating happiness and appreciation. And food is a conduit that allows me to do that. I love positivity. I am also allergic to negativity. And so whenever I spend time in that space, it actually makes me even more positive. I feel like the luckiest person to be able to live out my life's purpose and values through work that I enjoy, that's meaningful to me. I get to design the reality in which I want to live.
Welcome to the Differentiation Podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli. I am your host, and we are being joined today by Michèle Ng. Now, one thing that really stands out that makes Michèle unique is that she has turned her love of food into a truly powerful catalyst for her mission, which is helping people experience more joy, a greater sense of belonging, and to access more possibility. She is the founder of Vancouver Foodie Tours, which is a Forbes recognized culinary experience and one of the world's top food tours as well. And as someone who is absolutely, without question, eternally optimistic and passionate about supporting local business, which I can attest to, Michèle's entrepreneurial journey through her multiple ventures, I might add, has always created opportunities for meaningful human connection, whether that be through business or life or both. Michèle, it is an absolute treat to have you join us today. Thank you for coming along.
Thank you for including me today. It's always a treat whenever I get to talk to you. And so any opportunities there are, I will be the first one to be there.
Yeah, so oh gosh, I don't even know how long we've known each other, but it's been a while. And certainly I've had some experience with your love of food and all that has come and stemmed from that. And certainly having an entrepreneurial bent or style that you have. Michèle, I want to take you back to food specifically, because we've had so many conversations about food over the years. Take us back to when food became more than just something to eat for you. When did this whole
Mm,
love of food and its connection with more start?
yeah. So I'm going to start with my heritage, my Chinese heritage. And for me, my family, whenever we're celebrating any sort of festivities, milestones, it's always celebrated over food, and that's always been the
Mm.
case from as long as I can remember. And one of the main festivities would be Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and that's one of the biggest celebrations in the year for us. And there's always so many delicious, but also interesting and time limited foods that we only get to enjoy during
Mm.
Lunar New Year. And so that for that reason, that's something that I look forward to all year round. And some of my most special and treasured memories of my childhood always include food as well. And it could be, the simplest moments of coming back home after swimming at the swimming pool, and food would be on the table. And I just remember that feeling of having great food to look forward to, and just that sense of warmth and love. I think that when
Mm.
food is prepared for you, you really do feel loved and cared for. And I think that's really what sticks out most at me. And then as you know, I grew up, I remember, as an immigrant family, when my parents and myself moved here from Hong Kong, my parents, lost their professional designation and both had to start businesses. And one of the business that my mom started was actually marketing for shopping malls. And one of my early memories was actually helping her out at a multicultural food festival in one of the malls in Richmond, which was an Asian style mall. And I think that actually planted the initial seeds of what Vancouver Foodie Tours would become. And after helping her out at that multicultural food festival, I actually started then to just approach the high school that I was at. I think I was in grade 11. And I just put up my hand and I said, can I start a multicultural club at school? And one of the things that I love so much about Vancouver and Canada, and why I'm so grateful for my parents to have decided to, uproot the family
Mm,
and sacrifice, the years of building their own professional careers to move here, is really my love for the multiculturalism that Canada really has to offer, and it's about embracing the different cultures and being
mm,
able to live side by side. To folks of different
yeah.
heritage and cultures, and with it, of course, comes cuisines. I've always loved that. And so I think in those days, I wanted a way to learn more about my peers, the students at the school, and also for me to also tell my own story through
Mm,
food. And so that's really kind of the second seed
yeah.
that I planted along the way. And I started to plan multicultural food festivals at school. And it wasn't before long that the whole school actually got involved. And what was started with a one-day multicultural food festival at school, over the next, maybe it was 1 or 2 years, turned into a week-long multicultural food festival. The school cafeteria had to come to me and said, when are you planning to do this? Because we think that we're going to close down the cafeteria when you're running the festival because nobody is actually purchasing food from us. So I think, during those days, they were just the very beginning of my not only love of food, but really appreciating food as a connector,
Yeah.
and finding
Hearing
that
that.
common ground with other
Hmm.
people, and learning about the world in which I live through food and through cultures and people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, Food as a connector, common ground, and learning about others. Just heard those threads so clearly come through this.
Yes.
And, you started what I got little goosebumps when you said it, but many of us, many of our listeners might have the experience of coming home from a lesson or coming home from school or coming home from a, time away or whatever, and there's food on the table. And you said that food represents warmth and love for you.
It does. And, one other thing that really sticks out to me too is through food, I have been able to build a closer relationship with my grandparents. And it was just almost like an excuse or a reason to be together and to talk to them, to spend time, to learn from them, learn how they
Yeah.
prepare their dishes, and from that experience, learning to cook and understand food, I got to know them more.
I'm curious about this because I think a lot of our listeners, and certainly as I think about conversations I've had in the past, or even in my own life, food is often present for connection. It's often present, you go to your grandparents for dinner, or you're having dinner as a family, or lunch, or what have you, or picnics at the beach, or whatever it is. Food is often present when there are gatherings, whether they be family or community or otherwise. Not everybody has the same connection to food in the way that you do that allowed you to identify it as such a powerful catalyst or tool. It sounds like that happened really early on for you. Is that something that you think was nurtured, Michèle, or was that something that you came to on your own? Where do you think that awareness happened for you,
And
or
you're speaking
why?
in regards to my connection to food.
Yeah, how did you? A lot of people will experience food. They'll come home from swimming lessons, there'll be
Yeah,
cookies or whatever it is. I
right.
certainly am thinking about my own. I was skating as a kid and I'd come home from the rec center or whatever, 7:30
Yeah.
in the morning after my skating lessons, and there would be a hot bowl of porridge and toast with, whatever. And I ate it and it was lovely and I appreciated it. I didn't make the same connections that you've made.
Mm,
Um, and I think a lot of us have the experience of food. Yeah, food's just part of gathering. I'm curious
right.
about for you, what allowed you
Yeah.
or what it gave you access to that?
Food has always been something that I enjoyed, but I honestly never really thought too much into it, actually, until much later on. So it wasn't really like I was, sitting around thinking about the meaning of food and how it could, build connections for me. But food for me, I'll give you an example. It goes back to the beginning days of Vancouver Foodie Tours and how I actually started the business, which is
Mm.
actually 16 years ago, May 1st, and we're recording this
Oh,
on May 6th here.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
is actually that yes, I love food. I enjoy food, and food brings me a lot of joy, satisfy my taste buds. But really, I think food is a way for me to connect, to learn, and to build community and a sense of belonging. And that's
Hmm.
also why I started Vancouver Foodie Tours in 2010, May 1st. At that time, I was working in IT and I had never planned to start a new business. I already had a full-time job. I was busy Monday to Friday, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun to host foodie tours on the weekends when I wasn't working, and to share my love of food and the places I love dining at, the stories behind the chefs, and what I love most about each restaurant. And so it was really my desire to deepen my connection and engagement with my community, that I actually started hosting my first food tours. Food was simply a way for me to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and actually that continues to be true today, is that at the heart of what I do is actually about building connections and community by generating happiness and appreciation. And that's really my life purpose, is to generate happiness and
Mhm.
appreciation. And food is a conduit that allows me to do that work or that passion. It's so much more than work for me. It's really my meaning of being and my meaning of life. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I have a passion for food and I love good food. I love eating tasty food. But what's more important is actually building, um, having interesting and insightful conversations and building those connections or deepening friendships in a way that builds community. And community is very, very important to me. It is at the forefront of a lot of things that I do, whether it be in work or life, or volunteering. Um, so I would say really it's a combination of all of that.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. So community is a secondary theme in this, and it sounds almost like it's a dominant one as well. Um, what Your family immigrated to Canada. How old were you when you came?
I was 8.
You were 8. Okay, so you're young. Um, so you talked about the multicultural event, the festival that your mom helped to host and you were involved in. I'm wondering where the sense of community really started to form for you, and why that you have such a strong pull towards supporting community.
Mm. I think it stems from the fact that I feel grateful that I live in Vancouver, that my family chose to move to Canada from Hong Kong. I think it really stems from there. But it wasn't until much later, perhaps in my late 20s, that I began to appreciate community more. And increasingly that's very important to me. But it's something that I think I realized and discovered later
Mm.
on, as opposed to my early childhood.
Hmm. What happened that allowed you to experience that more fully?
I think it's the realization. Initially, it was the realization that I my most rewarding experiences and relationships are oftentimes external to my immediate surroundings. So I'll give you the first time that I realized that was when I was working in the IT industry, and it was a very male-dominated industry.
Mhm.
And I was the only woman, maybe there was one other woman there, and I had found that when I looked and reached outward, that those were some of my most rewarding and satisfying relationships. And I think that that planted the seed unknowingly at the time
Mhm.
that community for me is very important and meaningful. And because I am somebody who really enjoys looking outward and seeing far and wide, and I really love that. And
Mm.
that gives me great motivation and meaning. And community is a way for me to do that.
Mhm. I get that. So you're touching on a few things. Community, you love seeing far and wide, and there's a, perspective of possibility, expansion. There's so much more. So multicultural food would give you access to that. Multicultural events and festivities and celebrations would give you access to that. And just community at large would give you access to that. I would imagine that's what's happening. That's what I'm hearing. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, definitely. And community can mean many different things. And it's also a way for me to learn about myself and about the world at
Nice.
large.
What does community, when you say it can mean many different things, I'd love for you to expand on that for us.
Community can mean different things. So, for example, within my work, my community would be, everybody that I do work directly with. It would be the team members, vendors, clients, and the greater business network that I build. So that's one community that's top of mind. Um, Another community for me would be when I first moved into my neighborhood. That would be 13 years ago.
Mm,
I knew that I wanted to build community in a way that at the time my son was 2 years old, and I wanted him to grow up in a community that he felt safe and connected to. And so I volunteered as a block watch captain, and we would knock on all the doors around the neighborhood. There's about 100 doors. I would go with my son and introduce ourselves, and let them know there's a block watch program here, come join us. And we would create this WhatsApp group so everybody can, share intel and look out for each other. And we would have, annual block watch party. So this is a community where I'm able to share my purpose of generating happiness and appreciation in a way that, every time I do communicate to the group, it's a very uplifting tone and communication that influences our whole experience within the neighborhood,
mm,
and have turned it into a very warm and welcoming, inclusive neighborhood, not just for ourselves, but really any new members that come in, we would always, welcome them. I really believe that we can set the tone. Ultimately we can create the reality in which we want to see in the world. And as an entrepreneur, that's something that I believe in every scenario, whether it be, the neighborhood in which I live, by, being that block watch captain and setting the tone and culture for the block of 100 houses here, whether it be, at work, my own business, and defining those, the
mm,
purpose and the core values, and building that community, and what is this community and how does this community feel, and what are the important pillars of this community. And that really, community can really draw in a lot of energy, and people, and people will self-select and uh, humans have lots of layers, right? We all do.
Hmm.
And when we're able to build a community and make it intentional in how this community operates and how we are with each other, it appeals to certain layers of every human being that's a part of that community. So that's something that I really love a lot. Um, and for me, joy and appreciation are two, very important themes in how I live my life. And so I love defining that in every
Mm.
community I operate. There's also, I volunteer with Kinbrace, which supports refugee claimants in Canada. So I build a community there, and it's again, it's really sharing my own purpose and values in a way that is able to positively impact that community there. So for me, communities can happen in a lot of places, and it can be official or it can just be adopted and something that you create simply by being there and being the person that you are with intentionality.
Yeah, I hear that. So you really touched on an interesting theme. We've started out talking about how um, food brings together communities and it gives you a chance to connect and learn about others and learn about the culture and to feel that sense of belonging. And I also heard in this more recently, just now, you started to touch on how that effect ripples into the community and how everybody experiences that and how it changes the community. You said communities will self select, I think you said. Um, so I'm seeing how you're making that leap from yourself, experiencing it from a place of inner um, inspiration or fulfillment or what have you, and seeing how that now translates outward into the world at large. So tell us a little bit about what when did you start to, or what have you wanted to build now in terms of community? Where do you see this? You've talked about happiness, you've talked about appreciation several times already. What does that mean for you as you're thinking about the communities that you're building?
The communities that I'm building are ones that are uplifting for everybody involved. It's about getting to know each person intimately and what brings them happiness and what brings them meaning. It's really getting to know people more deeply, and looking for opportunities to really contribute towards that, to make progress together. Progress is another, important theme in my work and life. And now, having run Vancouver Foodie Tours for 16 years, and my second business, Granville Island Delivery Co, for going into 7 years now. I'm starting to also test out other opportunities to build community in a way that excites me and is rewarding and interesting to me. For me,
Mm,
I love conversations that go beneath the surface, and I get
hmm.
to know people truly as the people that they are, both in terms of, things
Mm,
that they're excited about, but also, things that worry them and challenges and things like that. And I think that's really what makes um, relationships and friendships real.
hmm.
I love to understand both the goods and the bads, or the, positives and the challenges. And so through the work that I do in different communities, I've actually come to realize that the platform that I built over the last 6 years running Vancouver Foodie Tours, offering gift boxes to corporate clients. I actually have the platform to be able to share more stories beyond the format that we currently offer, and to also utilize our platform to create other types of experiences that is value adding and exciting for other types of conversations beyond, the foodie tours that we run and we will continue to run. For example, something that I've started, actually, I started running these networking events about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've really enjoyed doing them and have been growing those events as well. Because for me, I actually love business a lot, and I love talking about and learning about business and growing together with other business professionals. And so I have been really enjoying hosting networking events for different business folks, so different verticals and industries. And we always gather over delicious food and create a
Nice.
scenario that is helpful and helps everybody in the group progress within the goals that they're
Oh,
working
I
towards.
love this. I'm curious about this piece because there's
Yes,
something here around, you're talking about bringing business people together in more intimate settings around food. Now, we've heard for however, as long as I can remember, and certainly longer, way longer than I can remember, but talking about how food, business often happens over food. And yet, there are very few opportunities to get together over food other than something that is self-created. There's very little, unless you go to big events and that kind of thing. So, where do you think this piece is interesting to me because I want to know knowing, I'm backing up a bit here because my mind is racing. I'm having so much fun. Um, as you're thinking about connection, belonging, access to learning, access to expanded perspective, access to more and more possibility and whatnot. And food becomes the entry point and the catalyst for that in a business conversation that's intimate, small. How is that different? Like, what is that going to do in your mind? Because you're already running a few of them, I think, right?
yes, that's right.
What are you seeing in these business conversations around food that's facilitated with a food foundation, if you will? I'm really curious about this piece.
So your question is, what are the business opportunities that are facilitated over food?
Because the food is present and you're
Yes,
facilitating them. Yeah. How does the food, in the way that you're bringing it
yes,
forward, I think, the way you're
yeah.
doing it feels different
Mm,
to me. So,
yeah, for sure. And so what's interesting is that whatever events or food experiences that I'm running, they're all actually um, they're actually all very similar in terms of the aim and the way that I do it. Because I believe in deepening relationships and friendships, about appreciating each other, uncovering common ground. So much like when you join us for a foodie tour, we always start the experience with an icebreaker. There's always a name tag, and these are intentional in that one, with the name tag, we want it to be easy for everybody to be able to start a conversation with somebody else in the group. And it's so much easier if we know and we remember their name.
mhm.
And I know for me,
Mm,
I might ask you your name once when I meet you, and then I'll go off and talk to somebody else, or maybe we're talking about something else, and then I forget your name, and I feel
right.
so embarrassed. And maybe I work up the courage to ask you a second time. But it'll be hard for me to ask you a third time, and I might just have to because I'm just not that great with remembering names. So it's really taking that piece out of that equation. Is that if I remember your name is Michelle, it's so much easier for me to strike up that
Right.
conversation with you again. And then doing an icebreaker, and we always plant questions in the icebreaker to create the common ground amongst our attendees. And one very common question that we would ask is, in addition to your name, maybe if it's a foodie tour, where you're from. If it's a networking event, it may be, maybe it's your profession or the business that you're with. And then it's your favorite food. And typically, when we ask questions like that, there's going to be linkages between
Hmm.
people within that group. And somebody might pipe up and say, I also really love mango as well. This is what happened at the last networking event. And we went into this, whole debate on like which is the best mango. And I ended up sharing the fact that I'm importing these very specific mangoes from Thailand. It's arriving in 2 days, and this is the best mango on earth. So it's a point of connection, but it's about getting to know people as people, whether
Yeah.
it be, as travelers on a foodie tour or business professionals working in Vancouver.
There's a really, what you said was what I heard. By the name, the simple thing around the name tag. Um, what I heard was that is by design in order to remove a barrier to connection, is what I wrote down.
Mhm.
So you're really facilitating a connection by making sure that the name isn't the first barrier. It's like, let's get the name so that
Right.
people feel more approachable. Then the second thing that you did was going into the icebreaker, which was simple, whether it's your profession or what company you're with or what have you, easy, easy, easy access point. But then the food, again, super easy. So I'm hearing that there are layers to the design of how you're giving people access to connection. And then food is the key. What's your favorite food? Bringing people that link that allows them to connect because food is common,
Right.
is what
Right.
I'm hearing, right? So there's
Yes.
very, very conscious design around how you are creating and curating experiences for people to connect and experience that sense of commonality and belonging and safety in
Right.
their
And
meeting of other
as folks are
people.
sharing
Hmm.
something about themselves, and when we make that connection, then we're able to actually highlight that on the spot and help these, attendees make that connections. And, Joe over there is also loves dark chocolate. And maybe, Katie here does as well. What's your favorite place for dark chocolate? And
Hmm.
they might start sharing. And that's where you build a connection beyond just, business and the work that you're there to do.
Michèle, why is connection so important to you? Why the theme of connection? Why is it so
Hmm.
critical as you're focusing on that?
Why is it so critical?
Hmm.
Um, First of all, I think that everybody has a story to tell, and through the stories of others, I'm able to broaden my perspectives of the world and including the great variety of perspectives, cultures, people. And for me, that is fascinating. I believe that there's endless perspectives, and my perspective is one. And I think that it makes the world a much more interesting place when I'm able to appreciate the realities through different lenses, and it gives me perspectives beyond my own. And for me, that's very interesting, and I love
Mm,
doing that. That's also why I love, yes, I love food, but I love to travel, and the reason why really is to be able to appreciate different perspectives and to broaden my horizons. I'm a learner. I love to learn. Love to learn about other people and the world, and and the entire scale of colorful to gray to everything in between. And for me, yes, I am a very positive person, and I choose to have a positive framing around almost every
mm,
situation, to the extent that some may say that's very annoying and that's very frustrating. Um, you don't always have to see the positive in everything, but I really think that happiness and perspectives is a choice, and I want to be happy. I want to be joyful, and I
mm,
want to appreciate what I have and what is in front of me, and that is my life, and that's who I am.
mm. Yeah, I hear that. And the connections, what I've heard is the connections is just access to a broader experience of life.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I want to live life fully.
Mm,
And that is how I can do that is really by, yes, experiencing the world in a way that brings happiness and appreciation to others because that makes me very happy and that
yeah.
helps me appreciate even further.
Is that something that you were raised in that, were you raised in that environment where your parents modeled bringing happiness and appreciation to others? Is that something when, as they were settling into Canada and finding their path forward, what has influenced this particular?
Yeah. It was really it was not evident. It wasn't something that we had talked about as I was growing up.
Mm,
And I think one of the things is, also what the things that we experience and see in our lives can be a teacher for, what to do, but also what not to do as well. And for me, because I love positivity, I am also allergic to negativity. And so, whenever I spend time in that space, of, complaining, it actually makes me even more positive, and it makes
uh,
me want to just stay in that space. Um, yeah, and I think and it wasn't until, I started working with you, Michelle, during the pandemic that
mm,
I have been able to verbalize that. It's something that has lived within me, but I don't think that I have really realized it until
mm,
I could say it out loud.
mm. What is the it specifically that you're referring to?
The main the main thing would be understanding and appreciating my purpose.
Mm, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun helping you come to the clarity of that.
I'm forever grateful.
Ah, well, it's lovely to see it come to life. So I'm loving this and I'm seeing, Michèle, how when you're thinking about business, you talked about learning and you moved into the business conversation and you're seeing networking where people are coming together over food, creating deeper connections, removing barriers to connections, allowing people to share stories, giving broader perspective. What's happening in the business community today that you think is a unique opportunity for you and the way you do your work?
What's happening in the business community? I think it is actually it is actually the same and also applicable to the greater community beyond the business community. I think that changes are happening at a breakneck pace ever
Mm,
since the pandemic.
mhm,
Um, and change is hard for most people. And uncertainty is also challenging for a lot of people.
mm,
There's a lot of negative news out there, a lot more than positive, I feel like. Um, and I think that a lot of people are really pushed to their limits in many different ways. It is a stressful time for a lot of people. Um, and even though we are more connected than ever through technology, through our devices, people are feeling lonelier than ever.
mhm.
Um, And I think this poses a great opportunity
Yeah.
in business in that, I am one, here goes my positivity again, is that, whenever there are challenges, those are opportunities, those are gold nuggets.
Hmm.
And I think, that's really where businesses can really thrive is knowing that people are stressed out, they're disconnected, they're lonely, at work and in their personal lives that when we're able to bring positivity, genuine positivity to people's days, and help them feel seen and appreciated, and connected.
Hmm.
Those are really valuable things that businesses can do, and also
Hmm.
anybody can do.
Well, this is when I'm thinking about, I started off with what makes you particularly unique around how you're linking food to your mission and how those two are so closely tied. We've seen the theme throughout this conversation of how food is the catalyst for all of this other beautiful stuff that is coming forward, whether it's community, connection, sense of belonging, possibility, joy, happiness, appreciation, gratitude, all these beautiful things coming. The thing that you mentioned just a couple minutes ago is change is hard and uncertainty is hard, and it seems to be everywhere. And what came to me as you mentioned that, as I was thinking, food is like such a fundamental human need. It's at the very core of when we feel safe. It's the survival mechanism. When we have food, it's the first agent past water, really. Food, water, shelter, right? Um, so to me, it felt like when all of that uncertainty is happening, or when all of that, the thing that people can genuinely connect on, that is the safest, least vulnerable, most comforting warmth and love that you mentioned, right? Most comforting place to come together and access possibility and access more would be to start with food. And the way that Vancouver Foodie Tours, the way you do it through your food networking groups, whether it's for corporate or even for tourism or even for local families and community who want to join you, what that's doing when it's facilitated, it feels to me that having it facilitated makes the adventure around something that is meant to be comforting, um, exactly that. It takes away the risk. It takes away the fear of how do I eat this or what does that taste like? So it allows us to experience something new and interesting without feeling vulnerable or fearful or not quite, or maybe even alone, right, in
Yeah,
that journey. What's coming up for you as
absolutely.
I'm sharing this? Because it feels to me like there's something
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. All of our experiences are intentional, and
Mm,
they're created with specific goals in mind. And while different, corporate groups or clients may have, specific goals, the common themes that we have across all of our foodie experiences is that it is always inclusive. We always look for opportunities to
mm,
connect the dots for folks, to find common ground, to break down barriers,
mm,
to uplift everybody in the group, to empower and to feed their curiosity. Um, and provide a structure that feels uh, easy and comfortable, and that you're hungry for more in all sense of the word. And so those are the common threads that run through all of our experiences. There's always a transformation that happens on all of our experiences, on all of our foodie tours, networking events, is that you are guaranteed to leave happier with greater appreciation. And
mm,
when we achieve that, then that's a home run in our minds. And yeah, so that is true
mm.
for everything we do, is that we leave people feeling happier and with greater appreciation.
What do you think it is about food that helps people leave feeling happier with more appreciation?
Delicious food definitely helps. If a lot of people come, sign up for a foodie tour for the food, but it's actually the people that makes that transformation.
Mm, nice.
That seals that deal. It's the connections and it's the way that people make you feel that actually creates that transformation. I would say 90% of the time. On foodie tours, it's generally the tour guide that our guests are just wowed by and continue to rave about after the experience. At networking events, it's oftentimes connections and friendships that you build, oftentimes unexpectedly. And you walk away feeling more connected with somebody, or you've learned something about someone that you found, interesting, that you want to continue the conversation. Forward movement and progress and empowerments are very common themes as well, is that you leave an experience
Mm,
with something that you're looking forward to doing after. And usually it's a result of something that you learned and discovered during the experience. So on a foodie tour, it may be because we always include tastings on the tour that pushes the boundaries just a little bit, and folks are oftentimes trying something that they wouldn't normally order on their own. But because
hmm
on a foodie tours, these are smaller bites, or not a full plate of something, that it's
Right.
easy to just say yes and give it a try. Because if you don't like it, it's no problem. We move right
hmm
along, and there's 10 other tastings coming. Yeah, and same with, in a business, maybe team building or networking events, is that folks oftentimes leave with, newfound perspectives or relationships, or maybe it's deepening your relationship with an existing colleague. And that transformation almost always
Mm,
happens. And it's not something that people expect or even think about when they come into an event,
right.
but it's something that I see almost all of the time.
That's really interesting. I can see why, can certainly see why you're one of the world's top food tour groups, companies. The As I'm thinking about the different groups who might be interested, there's obviously the independent tourists, whether they're from afar, whether they're a large family or individuals, what have you. I can see that. And as we think about local people who, to your point, food might be the reason people come, but it's not what seals the deal. The transformation happens in the relationships that you create or that you facilitate, right? By breaking down the barriers to connection and helping people find that common ground that
Yes.
allows them to experience that sense of belonging, which again is counter to their experience out in the world of isolation, loneliness,
Right.
and feeling like they're not connected in the way that they are wanting to be. So there's that piece. And then, especially in business today, as I'm thinking about business teams or business people who are feeling a sense of loneliness or disconnection, or maybe their team isn't quite gelling. The foodie tour is not about the food in the end. It's really about facilitating that connection and
That's right.
bringing back that sense of joy, sense of belonging, sense of possibility,
That's right.
happiness and
Absolutely.
appreciation, right? That's beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
So I love how food, like what you've done, and I think it's really interesting to have passions of yours, whether it's food, community, connection, happiness, all of these things that are so important to you. You've built an entire business and a couple of businesses, if not others, founded in those principles and wanted to say, okay, these are the things that we're doing and we're going to blend them all together. Um, what has that experience been like for you as an entrepreneur to be blending all of these things that are so important to you into your business, Michèle?
I feel like the luckiest person to be able to live out my life's purpose and values through work that I enjoy, that's meaningful to me. I get to design the reality in which I want to live.
Mm,
And that's a very powerful position to be in, because I believe that I have the power um, to create my own reality, whatever, scenario I wish
mm,
to spend time in which to live my life, to work. I just go and create it.
mhm, mhm,
And of course, the change is the only constants, and so the world is always changing. And I get to continue to shape and evolve the business in a way that serves me, serves people around me, that is true to my purpose of bringing happiness and helping people appreciate more of what they are experiencing. For me, I cannot think of a better way to dedicate my lifetime work, let my lifetime's work to. So
Hmm.
I feel very, very fortunate.
Amazing. So, as you're appreciating your own journey and being able to, choosing or recognizing or being aware that you can create your own reality and that you're choosing to and evolve as shape and evolve the business as circumstances change in alignment with your more important purpose. What counsel or what insights might you offer our listeners who might be struggling with the idea of blending those interests and things that are important to them into their entrepreneurial venture? What
Mm,
advice, what wisdom might you offer them?
yeah, I think that my advice would be really with any challenges that we might face, that's just things that are hard to do, and we all face them. We all have things
Mhm.
that's super hard, and it's we don't really know how to get started
Right.
normally is the first barrier. And baby steps is
Hmm.
really the best thing we can do. Is yes, sure, we want to go, all the way out here. That's the horizon, and that's, our ultimate ideal goal.
Yeah.
And that can feel debilitating.
It can feel
Because
overwhelming. Yeah.
yeah, overwhelming, because the horizon may be something that we don't ever touch. How do
Yeah.
we touch the horizon? But what's important is what is one small step that I can take today that
Nice.
would bring me closer to the ideal? Um, and for me, I would say it's not even that important that it was, a successful first step or
Mm,
not successful. I think just the fact that you take one step is
yeah.
success, because then you're able to get feedback, and over time, you will get better at it. With every single step, you are sure to make improvements, because with every iteration, you're going to learn something new, and you're going to evolve a little bit and change your
Right.
next step. And so, yeah, I would say that's just taking tiny step today is all that's needed. And that in itself is success. That's A plus in my
Yeah.
books.
Well,
Um,
I would
mhm.
certainly endorse that as well, because the one tiny step, the baby step, there's an empowerment in that when you start feeling that one step is successful and you can pivot quickly so that it can continue to settle in and adjust to be successful. So smaller steps give you access to that sense of empowerment. It's like, oh, that worked. I can take another one. Oh, that worked. I can take another one. And you can evolve and adjust with feedback as it comes your way. And that's,
Yes, and I want to say too that with every step, your confidence will also
yeah,
increase,
yeah,
because whether it's a success and that's how you wanted it to result, or maybe it's not, but the fact that you can actually recover from that and take your next step, that's going to give you more confidence regardless.
yeah, absolutely. I love it. Michèle, this has been a delight, and we could talk for much, much longer, I know, as we have. For today, for those who are wanting to access more of your wisdom, perhaps get the opportunity to connect with their community through Vancouver Foodie Tours, or a business networking lunch, something like that, where might they find you?
Yes. So a great place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. If you are there, send me a direct message. And you can also email me as well, Michèle@foodietours.ca. I would be glad to connect and to have a conversation.
All righty. That's perfect. We'll make sure those are available for everybody. And thank you for sharing so much wisdom and nuggets of warmth and connection with us today, Michèle. It's been a delight as always. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much, Michèle.
All
I
righty. We'll see you
appreciate you.
soon. Bye for now.